Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this second round of workshops of the EASPD conference, Road to Employment for Persons with Disabilities. My name is Carmen Arroyo de Sander, and I'm Development Manager at EASPD, and I will be the workshop moderator. I'm very happy to have with me as presenters Cristian and Marta from Grupo SIFU. As me, they are Spanish, so I'm particularly happy to be moderating this workshop today. Before we start, as you can see in the screen, a little information on the technical guidelines. The most important thing is that you have your microphone mute during the presentation, the first part of the workshop. So we will have Cristian and Marta presenting, and during that moment, it's extremely important that you mute your microphones. We will have the possibility to ask questions once the presentation is over, and for that, you can post your questions in the chat box. I will be reading the questions and addressing them to the speakers. We have captioning in English that you can activate by clicking on the closed caption button on the control bar. We also have French interpretation. You can have access by clicking interpretation on the control bar and then choose your language. So that's all about the technical guidelines. So we are ready to start our workshop. But before giving the floor to Cristian and Marta, I would like to take the opportunity to congratulate Grupo SIFU because they are the winners of one of the categories of the Employment for All Award. So Cristian and Marta, even if we cannot be in Paris, I have a trophy for you here. So congratulations. We are the champions, my friend. And we'll give our So that's a little homage to you from me. And a little bit of music that it's always something very good. So congratulations, enhorabuena, felicitación. And now we are ready to go. So Cristian, please, you can share your screen now and tell us about the successful inclusive enterprise. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? It's okay? Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for the word that you gave us. Thank you for joining us. I know that it is a difficult situation in many countries in Europe, or almost in all the countries in Europe. So first of all, I hope that all of you are safe and your families too. What we want to do today is just to explain our experience, what is Grupo SIFU, what is an inclusive enterprise, and what is the things that make us different. Our experience in the employing of people with disabilities that has allowed us to have now more than 4,500 persons with disability, working in Spain and in France. I will summary in these 4 parts. I will make the three parts at the beginning, and then Marta will join me. Marta is from the Human Resources and Integration in the Open Labor Market from Grupo SIFU, and she will help me in the presentation in the fourth point. Okay. First of all, let me explain you what is an inclusive enterprise. An inclusive enterprise is a position between the open labor market and the sheltered workshops. We have making a study about the inclusive enterprise in Europe, and we have seen that there are more than 8,000 inclusive enterprises in Europe in more than 13 countries. And we are hiring more than 200,000 employees. This is a mapping that we are finalizing, so it's not finished, But in one or other sense, we can say that in more than 13 countries in Europe nowadays are existing kinds of inclusive enterprise for people with disabilities. What are the key concepts or the inclusive enterprises for people with disabilities? They respect the Article 27 or United Nations. They are belonging into the social economy. We can say that we are the seat for the social economy because the inclusive enterprise for people with disability exists since 40 years. We have a specific legislation. Well, we pay normal salaries, long-term contract, right to unemployment rates and pension rates. So it's just like a normal company, but not working in the open labor market. And a step down from the open labor market. And in this position began Grupo SIFU. It's a private initiative where our founder has a brother with an intellectual disability, and seeing the problems that he had to employ his brother in the open labor market, he decided to create an inclusive enterprise for people with disability to boost the employment of people with disability in Spain. We have to remember that Spain was and are in the bottom of the employment for people with disabilities, and with more than 50% of unemployment rate of people with disabilities. We have the presence in all the Spain and 2 places in France, more than 25 years of experience, more than 4,500 employees, almost 89% with disability. So we are in all Spain, and we are beginning since 3 years to be in France. What we do? We made a lot of different services, and we made a lot of different services because we invest a lot in training and in capacity. If we see a group of people with disabilities who can do very well a service, we create a new service for them. That's the reason why that every year we made 2 different services for new services for people with disability, just trying the capacity of our people to do, and to do in a very professional way the services that we do. This is some of the reference that we have. I would like to say that our reference points, our values, are first professionality, second competitive price, quality, and social. We put the social as the 4th point of our values, because if we cannot offer professionality, quality, and a competitive price just for social, the companies doesn't want to purchase us. They want to hire our services if we can offer very, very good services with professionality and with competitive. You will see that in all the presentation, competitive and professionality, it's all along the presentation. We create a foundation 15 years ago just to give visibility to kinds of disabilities with the same values that has our group. And we focus it in art and culture. We give grants to persons with disability to improve different skills in art, music, and dance. And we create, just to show the professionality and quality of the people with disability, we create the biggest inclusive show in Europe, with more than 2,200 people in an opera in Barcelona and Madrid, showing the skills of people with disability in art and culture and dance. Just let me show you one video of 1 minute of one resume of the act that we did last year. when you see the show, you don't see a normal show playing by people with disability. You see a very professional show that this is always what we want to show. And let me explain you what we think are our success factors of inclusive employment of people with disability, why we are different, why the average of inclusive enterprise in Spain and in France are more or less 100 people and we have 4,500. Let me explain you. The first thing is that we base the model not on charity, we base the model on quality, and we put the social value as the third place, as I told you before, and we don't base our political of sending our service in social. Our values is first to offer a very good quality, and then to can offer a very competitive price. We think that innovation and IT is very important, so we invest a lot in IT, specifically for people with disability. We have our own apps making by us, specifically for people with disability, explaining service for people with intellectual disability, giving tools to our supervisors or for the clients, and using specific tools for the people who works in the our social service. This IT helped us to make our service better and more competitive and with more quality. We need to invest a lot too in innovation. We must show that we do our service in a very professional way. When you think about services with disability, people used to think about low quality, used to think about low professionality. That's the reason why that we need to have as much certificates as we can to show and to explain that what we do is in a very professional way, and that's the reason why that we must show this to our customers. We need to show a very professional image in all the things that we show in our web page that we have in the Liceo that I showed you before, the show that I showed before, and in all the things that we do. We have our own magazine, as you can see here. We do it all with a very, very professionality. And as you can see, now we are doing new services as temperature control, disinfected, making a pass from cleaning to help safety and disinfected because the COVID-19. So it means that we are now restructuring our services because the COVID-19 and showing that people with disability who has been in the bottom of the services now are on the top, helping to in this hard situation that we are living and we have in Europe and in the whole world. In our model, we have to integrate the two models that we had before. A few years before, if you want to make a better world, you create an NGO. If you just want to make money, you make a company or a business. But now there is a new wave that is the social business, social economy, who can integrate both things, making a better world and be sustainable, economically sustainable too. And that's the point that we want to do, and that's the point that we want to go, because if we are sustainable, we can be scalable. And if we are scalable, it means that we can go from Barcelona to Spain, from Spain to France, from France to all over the world. So it means that for that you can be sustainable to be scalable, and that's something that we are trying to reach. I make a composition with the difference between the social model and the business of social economy model that it's our figure that we want to be and we want to go. We are focused on a model based on quality, on business-oriented management. It means that the managers that run our services are managers, of course, with social sensibilization, but with business studies too, because business studies is very important for us to create a company model in a social way, a business model in a social conception. And that's the difference between in the success factors with us and the other companies. Of course, it's very important to have very friendly legislation that help us to support the employment of people with disabilities. That's what we are, and that's how we do it, and that's our success factors. Now, I would like to give the floor to Marta just to explain how we think our employees, the training, development, and the transition to the open labor market. Thank you.
Marta, 1 second. Your microphone is muted. Unmute it or wait for the host.
Right.
Now it's okay.
Hello. Hi. Right. So thank you for having me, and thank you, Cristian, and thank you for the award, Carmen. It's very nice and generous, and also the music in these times. Right. So I'm here to talk to you about how important it is to train and prepare our employees, those service users that we want to promote and empower them to get into the open labor market. So this transition from a social enterprise as Grupo SIFU to the open labor market, it's a path that we need to support them to go through. We need to support them to walk into the open labor market. So I'm going to talk to you about some key points that are very, very important to go into this open labor market. Right. So first of all, I just wanted to show you very quickly our chart about what kind of disabilities we employ among our staff members in Grupo SIFU. So as you can see, almost the 90% of our staff members, our team is formed with people with any kind of disability, with a medical diagnosis that recognize them with a percentage of any kind or type of disability. And besides, I just wanted to show you the next chart where you can see the types of disabilities that we have represented. The majority are physical disabilities, but we also have quite a high percentage of people with mental health disorders and cognitive disabilities. Right, about training and development, I was telling you before that in order to get them into the open labor market, we need to prepare them, we need to train them to be the best version of themselves so they can compete in equal opportunities to other people with or without disabilities and with different kind of backgrounds, right? To be able to hire and to get recruited to open labor market job opportunities. When we train someone, we are developing their skills, right? If we develop their skills, we are making them to have a stronger CV, a stronger resume. If we do that, we are also increasing and upgrading their opportunities to be employable in general terms. The key elements to develop a successful training plan is, first of all, we need to match the training plan and the training process into a job position. So we need to get to know what are the tasks and the responsibilities involved into that job role. Besides, training and development is an ongoing process. So it's not something that we start one day and we stop the next month. We need to go throughout a different process and study and assess the different needs that the job position will require. Training, in general terms, needs to be flexible and adaptable. And specifically speaking, when we are talking for people with disabilities, we need to be creative, right? We need to base our training strategies in the SMART goals technique, which is something we can expand and use in very sentences and factors in our life. Training needs to be specific, needs to be measurable, needs to be something achievable, needs to be realistic and relevant for the person and for also the job position, and it needs to be timeable, scalable. We also need to base our training goals into an individualized or personalized plan, right? And very, very important, and nowadays, it needs to be accessible. And accessible means that training methods, training materials, training ways to allow people to learn new skill need to be accessible for everyone. So again, we will need to be creative and create different ways and different training methods for allow everyone to enjoy and to learn. Right. I just wanted to show you briefly two different strategies that are used in Europe for training for people with disabilities specifically. There is one that is called TSI, Training in Systematic Instruction, and there is another one which is called FIT, for Integral Training. In conclusion, both training methods, and there are more, I just gave you two examples, follow the same sort of rules, right? So first of all, imagine that we have a new task, a complex, difficult task that includes different steps to show and to train someone that has never done it before. It could be us as well. When we learn a new language, for example, it's very complex. We need to break it down in something smaller. So we need to train someone with disabilities, and everyone in general, but especially someone with special needs, into different sort of steps. So we need to train them step by step, which is called step-by-step training. We need to do smaller, easy, and achievable steps, and it needs to be progressive and gradual. So the difficulty needs to be increasing, right? Throughout the training, it's very important that we provide verbal instructions on how to do X task or X step, right? These verbal instructions need to be comprehensive, understandable, and adaptable to every single human being, right? Besides, some people might need written instructions, right, to follow up. Those written instructions could be, like you can see on the right-hand side, charts. Some people will work better and will understand better pictorial or images charts, specifically people with learning disabilities, intellectual disorders, and cognitive impairments. Some other people will work right with some easy written steps. Number 1, number 2, number 3. First of all, do this, do that, right? We also, besides of the verbal instruction or the written instructions, need to provide physical demonstrations. Let's show them how to do something, right? If we learn by observing how somebody with more experience and more knowledge do an example, we will learn better because we will retain the information with our visual inputs, we will retrain them with our verbal instructions, and we will also have the reminder on the written instructions or the graphs or the charts or the pictures. Also, it's quite important to provide feedback throughout the process, right? And in general, no news are good news. So if you're doing a task correctly, just don't say something. Just reward them at the end when they complete it correctly. I just wanted to give to you some examples of our main goals in the supported employment team at Grupo SIFU. What we want is to raise awareness to the society, to the companies, to everyone in this world about what it means to have a disability, what kind of job adjustments they might need, what kind of support needs they might have. We want to break down barriers and stereotypes, because if we do that at the same time that we are raising awareness, we will be able to provide the society an opportunity to include them and to integrate them in the employment world. The goal of the supported employment team is to help people and support people with disabilities to get into employment, specifically into the open labor market. So we target two different people. First of all, service users, which are our employees at Grupo SIFU with a disability. And then we also target employers and organizations outside of Grupo SIFU. We provide support to these two target groups, right? Service users and employers. To the service users, what we want is to empower them, to train them, to prepare them, and to support them throughout every single step to get them into the open labor market. To employers and organizations, different supports and service providers to them. We want to promote their social responsibility. We want to help them before the recruitment process, during the recruitment process of the new employee with a disability, and afterwards. And that's very important, and that gives them a lot of reassurance to both the organization and the employee, because we will provide, as you can see below, job support into the job placement. And that reassures both the employee that it's going to join a new company, a new job, and it's going to be a new adventure and a new challenge, and also the organization that maybe has never had an experience of recruiting someone with special needs. Right, I just wanted to give you a brief visual image about what it means to create a specific and experienced employment support team in a social enterprise. It's quite important that the staff members that form and join this team have or become from a social background. So their theoretical experience and previous professional experience are going to be based about working with vulnerable people, vulnerable adults, and helping them to integrate in the society in general, right? So we will have psychologists, social workers, occupational therapists. It's very important when you join a supported employment team that you know your service users. You need to know them individually in order to help them to achieve their goals. So you need to match the right person to the right job position and not the other way around, okay? It's important as well that you build up strong alliances with the outside world. So it's important that you have good relationships and partnerships with social enterprises, with public administrations, with employers, other stakeholders. We also need to work with the individual as a whole. So we will need to create and partner as well with the individual social and professional network, right? Their families, maybe they go to see their GP, a psychologist, a social worker. So we will all need to work together to achieve this integration into the open labor market. A social enterprise, as Cristian was saying before, it's a stepping stone. So it helps, it's a good platform, it's an amazing platform to train people, to empower people for them to get integrated afterwards in the open labor market. So in order to help people to get into employment, we can do two different strategies which can be combined at the same time, right? It does not exclude one to the other. Some people with strong CVs, people with previous long job trajectories, and with very independent adults, they will have facilities to get into open labor market just by applying through a normal recruitment process and passing a job interview and then getting hired. Fantastic, and we will support them throughout this process as well. But other people with higher needs, people that have not worked before maybe, or have worked just in 2 or 3 companies, they might need extra support. That extra support will come from us. We will need to go out as professionals to do a little bit of employment engagement. That means employer hand, literally. So we will need to approach, sometimes cold door, or by setting up a meeting with an employer or a director of human resources, to get opportunities, to break down opportunities and bring them to the office to provide them this opportunity to be interviewed in a job interview, right? So when you do this employment engagement, it's very important that you know your employment environment. It's not going to be the same here in Barcelona, or maybe in a little town on the suburbs of in Sevilla, or in Belgium, or in London City. So we need to know the reality of the job market. What are the jobs available? What are the requirements of those jobs positions? You will need to prepare, if you're going to do this employment engagement, an employer sales pitch. It's like selling, really. So you need to have a very clear strategy of who are you going to approach, what are you going to say to them, because your goal is to persuade them and to encourage them to provide job opportunities to your service users. So you need to believe yourself on what you are doing and do it with passion, because if you do that and you are a natural, then you will transfer that into them and they will believe you, they will trust you, and then they will follow you to do this job interview and maybe to give the opportunity to your service user, Maria. Right. We also need to target employers that match our service users profile. So for example, if I've got a caseload of 100 service users that I am helping to get into the labor market, and most of them have a retail sort of background experience, what kind of employers I will approach is quite obvious, right? Supermarkets, retail shops, clothes shops, shopping centers, right? I won't go to a facility service company maybe, or to a cleaning company. It doesn't have anything to do with my service users. We also have found a very successful experience when we target employers that are mirroring our company already. So similar companies to what we are. We are a facility service social enterprise, Grupo SIFU, so we provide this kind of services, cleaning, If we approach companies that offer similar services, it's going to be much easier for our employees to transfer that experience into the new company. And besides, we will also see from the new company that they see it as a natural transition into the open labor market, right? And we have had a very good experience with one of our partners, which is called Broccoli Facility Service, for example. We also wanted to talk to you briefly about a new model that we set up in Spain. It's a social temporary employment agency, which is called Avanti, ETT in Spanish. This is a temporary work agency, but it's specialized into temporary recruitment of people with disabilities. So it works really as any other kind of temporary employment agency, but the difference is that it specializes in the recruitment of vulnerable adults, right? And it's, again, a stepping stone to helping them to get into the open labor market, because during few months, the employee will be recruited directly through the agency. But at the end of that period, if the person has had a successful performance and if the organization is happy about them, they will recruit them directly. So it's a very good way to helping, again, people to get into the open labor market. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta and Cristian. I think that's a very comprehensive presentation and on time, just 1 minute more, so not bad. We have now, we opened the floor for participants to address the questions via the chat box. Let's start by one that we have in the chat. Cristian, Marta, you can choose which one to reply. Agnieszka from Poland, that was commenting on beforehand that the situation of social economy in Poland is quite challenging. Maybe also in your case, maybe Cristian, you can also maybe address that in your intervention. She's asking about very active people with disabilities who wants to go in leadership position.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also provide support to those leaders? Cristian, Marta, the two of you, or which one wants to have?
I will answer this one. Yes, we help and we provide, and we are partners of some specific initiatives that has been created for people with disabilities. In Poland, there is an initiative that you can make a cooperative. And if you make a cooperative of different people with disabilities, then it is a social economy company with some benefits, with some specific benefits for that specific company, and that they can hire more people with disability, because it depending on the percentage of people with disability, you are one kind or other kind of company of people with disabilities. But yes, we do it. And that is something that we're trying to make grants to people who has a disability and wants to create their own company or has their own initiative specifically for people with disabilities or with people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm. Just maybe to conclude, Agnieszka is asking that, of course, in social economy environment, it's easier, but what about a regular company in the open labor market? Maybe also, I don't know, Marta or Cristian, do you also have this specific program to support those leaders to transition to the open labor market?
when we have the program to support to the open labor market, we, as Marta said before, we have the different initiatives, and one of them is to help to one initiative of one of our employees who wants to become entrepreneur, and they can do it in a sheltered way, or they can do it in an open way. That's their decision. It's not our decision.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So we have another question from Mirela Juca. She would like to know about the procurement process, how I understand public procurement, or I don't know if procurement, how the legal framework in this case of public procurement and procurement is helping to employ persons with disabilities.
Spain 2 years ago adopted one of the European initiatives about public procurement. We were one of the first countries in doing it. So it's quite new, but in this new legislation, there are some contracts who are reserved just for inclusive enterprises. And there are some big contracts that the company who win this process who has the possibility who hires some part of the companies with people with disabilities or with inclusive enterprise. So it is not just public procurement for give contracts specifically for inclusive enterprises. They give points to the big companies who hire a percentage of people with disability to make this specifically contract. And that's something new that helps to the big companies or to hire directly people with disability or to have a part of the contract with an inclusive enterprise.
Thank you very much. We have another question. Valentine, I guess, because she's writing in French. She's asking if you have a particular method for people with psychosocial disabilities.
Excuse me?
I understand from the question. I guess maybe also for Marta, like in the support to your service users, mm-hmm. if you have a specific methodology for people with psychosocial disabilities.
By psychosocial disabilities, do we understand mental health disorders or people with social difficulties as well?
More on the mental health
right.
aspect. So
I mean,
psychosocial disabilities, yeah.
Right. We have a general program and we treat every individual as a whole, as I was saying. So our program, we have different sort of steps to help people with disabilities to get into employment. There is not a specific one for mental health disorders, because what we do with that program is that we individualize it. So we create a job itinerary for helping them to get into employment with different steps based on every single individual needs. So if someone has a mental health issue and mental difficulties, we will adapt that program and those steps into his or her needs. So it's not that related to the diagnosis of what kind of disabilities any kind of service user has. It's depending on the service users or the individual needs.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So I keep inviting people to post your questions or comments in the group chat. While people activate a little bit, I understand that it's lunchtime and we are the only thing between you and your food, but we have food for thought here, so stay with us. I have also a question for Marta, like you were talking. I saw in your presentation the importance on setting alliances. You were mentioning employers. What about alliances with education providers? I mean, do you find what you need in the mainstream education market, let's call it like that? Or you have developed your own training programs, or the two of them? So how is this relation with the mainstream education provider?
Right. So The answer, I think it could be, we do a little bit of a combination of both. In one hand, we create and implement and develop our own internal training, which we provide to our service users and staff members at Grupo SIFU, which allow us to be very creative to assess their needs from the floor. So we are working with them, alongside with them, we know their needs, what their job requirements are, and we can decide and create very specific and adaptable training and accessible training for them. That's one part of what we do. And we also, throughout the partnership with new alliances, education stakeholders, public education centers, or private organizations that provide training in person or online, we also create and ask them to create for us training materials adapted to what we need specifically, and adapted as well to people with disabilities, which is not that easy sometimes, because training materials in general are very generic, and they are sometimes not written down in an accessible language, or they are not created in different sort of materials. So it's just written materials without charts or without pictures. And as I was saying before, we need people to access and learn and process that information, and we will need different methods.
Thank you very much. So we have two new questions. Koti is asking do you have different profiles in your teams? Maybe let's go first with this one. What about the teams? I mean, you both explained that the multidisciplinary character of your teams, but maybe if you would like to elaborate a little bit more on that. And also maybe just to add to that, do you find the people that you need?
Right. Shall I go on, Cristian, or you want to go for it? Me? Right. So the multidisciplinary teams. So in Grupo SIFU is a very, very big company. So we have different departments, right? So for example, at the foundation where I work, there are people with different kind of social backgrounds. We have a team member that is a lawyer. We have somebody that it's been trained in marketing and sales. We have someone who's a journalist. We have a psychologist and a social worker. That's the kind of variety. But then if we move to the, I don't know, human resources team, we will have people trained in businesses, again, people trained in psychologists, human relationships. If we move to the projects and engineering sort of team, we will have engineers, people that has worked before in buildings, in factories. So we have people that have worked in a very varied work setting. And then what was the other question? Sorry, I think it was two questions.
My personal addition.
Sorry.
Do you find in the job market, let's say, the people that you need? How is your perception of the workforce of the sector to be able to have those multidisciplinary teams, no, to support people with disabilities?
I think the reality is that it's not that easy to find high job profiles with strong professional and background experience, which I mean university experience, which also has a recognized disability. So that combination, that package, is not that easy to find, but it's just a matter of numbers. So in the society in general, it's very specific that we find someone with, I don't know, a law background, with a law degree, which also has a disability and which also has previous work experience working in a social enterprise. It's a very specific profile, but we search for them, and even looking underneath the stones and everywhere, we find them, and we find very good professionals who are really committed and wants to join our team.
Mm-hmm. So next question, also coming, I guess, from France, is that they are asking which are the job positions more easily accessible or available for people with cognitive disabilities. In your opinion, which are those?
Right. Shall I go, Cristian? Right. People with intellectual disabilities, learning difficulties in general, what I have found in my job experience that is quite important is that regardless of the job that they are doing and the job environment, is that the task that they complete is repetitive. So it needs to be a job that it has maybe 3, 4, 5, 10 different tasks, but they are always the same. So it needs to be repetitive because people with learning disabilities and cognitive impairment, they work right when they have stability. So repetitive tasks and repetitive patterns, they will be able to process them, retain them, and perform them to an excellent level. But it needs to be quite repetitive. That's what I found. But they can do anything. I mean, I have helped employ people with learning disabilities into very varied different roles. I have had people doing a receptionist job, somebody working on the till in a supermarket, or somebody helping people in an elderly people home. So it really depends, but it needs to be a repetitive job.
Thank you very much. We have also, well, the Francophones are really active. Eh? We have also a question that I would like both of you to reply. They're saying that the importance of establishing networks and alliances, but they say that it's difficult to make them work. No? What are the main success factors in your relations with employers? After, you can talk about your experience of what you do in Grupo SIFU. What is the key issue to bring this alliance really till the end? No? Maybe let's start with you, Cristian.
Yes, the first of all is the professional image. When you have a client that he's 3 years old with you, and you show him that you do it very well in a professional way, then it's easier to get in that client people with intellectual or with mental disabilities, because they trust you when you say these people will do a very good job. That's the first thing. The second thing is the facilities that we give. Marta has talked about the initiative of the temporary work agency. This is an initiative that it's new in Spain and France. It does not exist, because with the temporary agency you can say, try these people, and if you don't like it, I will keep it again, but try it. I give you the option, because I go away with the awareness that you can have, with the shy that you can be of hiring people with disability. With a temporary agency, it's my people, and I just say, try it. You will see that it will work, and I will help you in this process. And if this does not work, don't worry. You put it down, and we will keep it again in the inclusive enterprise. So there are different initiatives that we do, just because, yes, it's true. You can say people with disability works very well, and you will be it will be a very successful experience. But it's true, the companies are aware of it, and we have to think how we could this awareness. And for example, it's more easier when I go to a facility service company, normal facility service company, to say, try these people, because they are 5 years working in the same thing. So they are experts on the same thing. So it's easier if you transit the people with some skills that they are doing and they are developing, to go to the same company. For example, in France, that there are a new initiative in France pour les entreprises adaptées qui s'appelle les contrats trampoline. There, we are searching for mirror companies together to make a contact trampoline to put these people to the open labor market. We have to do different things, because with the things that we have ever do, we have the same results, and we know that these results are not much higher, talking about the people with disabilities.
Okay, so I agree with every single word that Cristian has mentioned. And I could also add that, and Cristian has mentioned it briefly as well, I could start first of all about raising awareness. So if we do not break down these fears, these barriers, these stereotypes that maybe some employers have about people are all recruiting people with disabilities, they won't even be able to start thinking about it or considering to provide these opportunities. So when we have done that and we have explained in detail what it means and provide examples and also give them successful case stories about people that we have integrated in the open labor market, and we have those case stories written down or in a video that we can show them, and that helps a lot. And as well, another thing that we have found quite successful is that the word of mouth helps. So if you go to find an employer in your high street, a supermarket, and they have recruited one of your service users and they are happy with them, the supermarket on the next street, they will hear about that story and they will say, oh, all right, let's try, because they are very happy. And Marta has been helping throughout the process as well. So the proof of reality that the employers need to see and need to test on their own skin, as Cristian was saying, is like, try, just try how it works. If you don't like it, step down and try with somebody else if you want. But when they try and they realize that this is possible and it's quite easy and it brings into your company a lot of value, not just economic value or financial value or follow up or just follow the legislation that your country has about recruiting this kind of individuals, it brings added value to your company. Your team is going to be happier because they will feel represented and they will feel that they are working in a diverse, inclusive, and social environment. Your clients and your social image is going to increase and improve. So they will keep going with us. And also what I was telling you before on my presentation, what it reassures the employers a lot is that we ensure that we are going to be part of this. It's not like you recruit one of our guys and hello, bye-bye, good luck with them. No. We will be with them throughout the whole process, before the recruitment process, during the recruitment process, and when they get and hire that individual. We will be with them in the next few months, supporting both the employee and the employer.
I think, Marta, that's a wonderful contribution also, because we are service providers, and I think that's a key role of the service provider, no? Let's put it like that, independently on the circumstances of particular job market, we have extremely important role to play. And you say it's not only to support the person with disabilities, but to support the employers and the companies. So I would like to take the last question on that. Maybe, Cristian, what do you think what are the legal framework allows for trying out in Spain? The legal framework helps you to do your job. We have a question about the government measures.
Yes, we have a quota system for the companies who hire more than 50 employees. We have restrictions to access to public procurement to the companies who has not afford the quota for people with disabilities. We have specific grants for to hire people with disability in the open labor market for the normal companies. We have made a study around Europe, and more or less the initiatives are similar in many countries, and the problems are similar in many countries. That's the reason why that we think that we must go ahead to innovate and to do different kind of things. And I think that the two most relevant initiatives that we have done has been the temporary agency work that we have explained, and to has a mirror companies to be partnership with them, because it's easier to try. The problem is to try. You can give as many helps that you want, but if people don't try, you will not get it on. So how they can try it? They can try it if you put it easier. They can try it if they know that the people who will try are has the skills and are professional in the thing that they are doing. And we are going in this way because we know that all the old things works, but just a little bit.
I think that's a wonderful way to conclude this webinar. I have noted some keywords. We start talking about quality, competitiveness, and professionality. I really got professionality from your presentation. And you can just see in that by having Cristian and Marta, the way you present and the way you transmit the message. No? I think it's extremely important, and I think we are very happy. Now we understand why you have won the award. So something also extremely relevant for me, as I mentioned before, this key role of service providers also in increasing visibility. No, you mentioned the foundation and arts and culture. So let's say the portfolio of a service provider can be quite diverse. No, I think, and also as you said, creativity and innovation, break your own barriers, because opportunities can be found everywhere. No, I think that's extremely important. Something that also I think is very relevant in these particular times of crisis. It's you mentioned that you were prepared you already embrace technology, and you embrace and you develop your own technology. Of course, that's not possible for many companies. It's not possible to have your own IT department. No, but I leave it there for people to consider maybe things that they can do right now to improve the employment rate of persons with disabilities. No, invest really in technology and invest in innovation. I would like also to mention what Marta said. Training, the available training is not really adapted. I think we should work much more on that, and on the relation with mainstream education providers. Again, technology can help us in these strange moments. But I would like to finalize. I think it's the sentence of today. Just try it out, try it, and see how it works. That's also the relevance on the in-job training. You mentioned the temporary agency, which is also an innovation. I think from today's webinar, we have heard of a very, very innovative and brave, don't forget, very brave people that really tried out, and now they have proved that it works. So thank you very much. Thank you to all the almost 70 participants. They have been listening to you. It has been a pleasure. It's also an honor to have Grupo SIFU as Via Conase, as a one EASPD members, as a front runners on innovation in this sector. And then enjoy. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. And for those that want to join the project development workshop, see you later at 2. For those for which the conference is finished, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup for having been with us, and have a very, very nice day. Bye bye. Au revoir.
Gracias. Muchas
Adiós.
gracias.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.